Alright, welcome to the third video in C# in Unity for absolute beginners. This is on arrays. Now, going forward, these videos, I'm going to shorten these significantly because this series is basically going to be used as a quick reference. Each video is going to try to remain short and just have a quick overview of the data type or whatever topic it is, and this series can basically be used or referred to as kind of a quick glossary of terms or ideas basically, and will be a companion to the Make a Game tutorial, which will be a from start to finish basic game. So let's get on with it. This is an array. Now, an array is basically a list. It's a type of collection, which is basically a type of list. Now, there is a data type called list that you can make, but we're gonna, and it's a little bit more powerful than an array. It has some pros and cons based on using that collection as opposed to an array, but we will, like most things, we'll get into that later. So just think of it as a list. An array is a list of a particular data type, and as we've seen in the data types and variables lesson previously, you have your int, you have your bool, your string. So int my int equals 1. What the hell is wrong with me? There we go. Alright, int my int equals 1, string my name equals imposter, and yeah, let's just start with there. So an array is a list of these data types. Now, the way that you define an array is you define the type and then you use these square brackets. Now, they are empty, but we'll do something like this. Int array, as soon as I use the square brackets, it's saying that whatever data type I want an array. Int my numbers. This is a list of my numbers. Okay, and you can automatically, set the data of the array by doing something like this. Curly braces, if you remember those. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you're declaring an array and you're setting the values in one line. Okay, so that's all there is to it. Now we've told it that it's basically an array, basically a list of numbers. Now, let's see here. So now that you have an array, you can do certain things to it. You can access certain members or values of the array. You can cycle through it. You can iterate through it. We'll get into that later when we go over for loops. But there's the data. I have the data. The most basic way to access elements in the array is to select by index. So I can say, we'll go back to our debug.log. I could say my numbers give me the index of 3. That's how you do that. So everything array about arrays uses these square brackets. That tells it that it's basically a collection. It's not necessarily specific to arrays. It's used in other collections, but it's basically saying, hey, give me the third value in array. Now, one thing to note is that in programming you count from 0. Okay, so the value int 1 is actually, think of it as 1 is the zeroth, that makes sense, element of the array, and 2 is the first. It's index number 1. So index 0 equals 1, index 1 equals 2, index 2 equals 3. Kind of confusing, but you'll get comfortable with it eventually. So now if I access and I'm asking debug.log to print the value of my numbers at index 3, knowing what we know about how you count in programming, what value do you think we're going to get? Well, this is value 0, value 1, value 2, value 3. So we're actually going to get 4. Now let's save this and go into Unity and switch over to console, clear this, and press play. Alright, well, it'd probably be a good idea to put the script on the object. We have not done that yet, so don't let that confuse you. I will remove the previous script. Yep, so another quick note, if you want to use or have a script function in Unity, it must be attached somewhere to a game object, assuming it's a mono behavior, and that's kind of out of the scope as well for this. So let's take our array script, put it on the player, and now if we press play, we get 4. That is the third index in our list. So that is pretty much it. Well, actually, let me do this one too. It doesn't matter what data type it is. I believe 99% sure you can put any primitive type in an array. And we'll go over the difference later, but the primitives are basically the same types that we went over in the types and variables. There are more types. There are a lot more types than int, string, bool, double, float, etc. But those are the primitives. For instance, array is this is arrays. This is my class array, but for instance, array is a class. List is a class. Or excuse me. An array is a type. List is a type as well. I won't get into too much of it to confuse you, but just worry about the primitive types for now, and we'll go over different data types later. But with these primitive types, your int, your string, your whatever, you can have those in an array. So I can make a string array. Guess what I'm trying to say? My names, and I can do the same exact thing. Now remember, strings are placed in quotations, and make an array like that as well. Very simple. And now I have an array of strings. Now if I just switch this over 0, 1, 2, my names, and I get the third array, let's take a guess what that would give. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so we would actually get an error for this because there is no index of 3. It only goes up to 2. 0, 1, 2. So instead, if we switch that to 2, we will print mark. So that is selecting the index of an array. And that's the most basic that they get. There are other methods. When we go into methods, basically there are cool things we can do. My names, if I hit period, these are all the different crazy things that we can do with the array. Other than simply grab the index, we can also get the length, and that's going to return the length of the array. But that is for another time. Absolute basics on arrays. They're a list of primitive types that you can do things with. Alright, till next time.